Morning everybody and welcome back to another video. My name is Jan Kilstra. Today we should get going on the fall rye again. The stuff that we were combining last night was doing 89.1 bushels to the acre, which is nuts. I didn't even know common variety fall rye could do that. We got a little patch of that to finish up today, and then we're gonna head over to the hybrid variety, which should be the one that cranks the bushels. Although the common variety is already doing really good. I can only imagine what the hybrid is gonna do. Can't wait to get into that. We're getting our balers in order because we are combining, which means we're gonna have to start baling straw. And since we have crops, there's gonna be a lot of baling to do. I'm just putting a piece of tin underneath the tractor. So it's the same metal cladding we put on the barns, and we always have a little bit of extra. We leave it here for when we need it. We're gonna put it underneath the baler here, underneath the tractor. And that's going to prevent the swaths from piling up underneath the tractor. You can see it's a little bit low there where the drawbar or the hitch of the tractor is, and that's gonna pile up the swath right there and plow it forward, and that creates a big hassle for baling. It can cause the baler to plug up and all sorts of issues. So in order to prevent that, we're going to attach one of these pieces of steel cladding to the tractor. See which one we pick here. A nice long piece. Got that piece of tin rigged up. I just gotta secure the front somehow here. But yeah, you can see now. Big swaths of straw will just glide all the way underneath the tractor. And it pulls through past the hitch and then straight into the baler. And that way we can bale some monster swaths with not a monster setup. Brent's servicing the combine, getting ready to go for another day. We're gonna try straight cut as much as we can this year. It's just more convenient, saves you a pass over the field. And if the crop is standing, it doesn't look like the grain is gonna fall on the ground. There's absolutely no problem with it. And it's a little later in the morning and we went ahead and hopped on the swather. We have the haybine header on there and we're just dropping the last of the second cut of alfalfa. You can see it's blooming already. The field looks a little purple, but that's okay. We're done chopping. We got plenty of feed for ourselves and we figured no use putting more than we actually need for 2 years under plastic, so we're just gonna hay the rest. That always gives you the option of selling it down the road. We've sold hay that was 3 years old before, and you can just, you know, put it in those round bales, put net wrap around it, and you can just park it outside for years. And then, you know, you never know if we get a couple dry years again, back to back in the future, we can feed it, or it'll be worth more then, and we can sell it. So you don't really have that option anymore if you silage it and put it under plastic, unless you have a local farm that's willing to buy it. But for us, we just think it's better to bale it, and then you can have more options down the road, since we did get enough feed under plastic this year, which feels so good to say out loud. Anyway, it's a nice job to sit in the swather, do a little bit of cutting, and then later this afternoon, I think we're gonna truck for the combine. So Neline is gonna finish this off. I just did a couple hours here this morning to make sure that it gets dropped today. We have maybe 150 acres total that needs to be hayed, maybe a little bit more even, so lots to hay. And this haybine does go pretty quick, but it's only a 16-foot wide header, and that does take some time to knock out that many acres. So. almost started day 2 of combining the fall rye. You can see the combine is just crawling over, going really slow, and that's because it's such a thick crop. The reason why it's going so slow, we're cutting so low to the ground. We want as much straw as we possibly can get. You guys have seen the struggle over the last couple of years, asking other farmers to drop their straw just so we can bale it. Hauling it from long distances, so much easier for us if we can just cut a little bit lower and get it off of our own fields. We've always cut as low as we could. There just hasn't been anything in the field the last couple of years. See his lights are flashing. It means the tank is 3/4 full already. The other thing to mention about today, it is incredibly hot out, and that's a little bit sketchy. That combine has a lot of moving parts, and if it's not serviced properly, those parts can start to heat up because of friction. And that can lead to a fire, and that happens actually pretty often around the prairies and anywhere that they're combining. Combines will start on fire, and they will burn to the ground and take a field of ripe fall rye with them. So it's something we're always kind of worried about, especially when it's as hot as it is right now. But there's not really much you can do about it. You just got to be alert, and luckily we're really close to the Asquith Fire Department here. Those are good guys. They're very quick to act, but also we are going to be ready to go with a tractor and a disc and that sort of thing. So if the worst happens, we know what to do. So that's the first load going in the bin for today. I took a sample, put it in a bag. We'll run it past the shop where we test the moisture of the grain, and then we'll know for sure it's good. But most likely it is. You can't put grain in the bin too moist. You gotta let it dry down. These bins do have aeration in them, so you can get away with a little bit higher moisture, but still always best just to let it be dry. So it took me a minute to figure out, but it tested 12% moisture, so plenty dry, good to go. So we finished that first field. It was only 25 acres and it averaged 85 bushels per acre, which is awesome. Not as high as we initially thought at 90, but still phenomenal, not that far off. And we know that's 100% accurate because we have the scale. I weighed every load. We know to the 10th kgs how much we got, so that's pretty cool. Now we're on to the next field. This one is 320 acres, so a lot bigger. It's gonna take a lot more time. Brent always opens up the field a little bit with the chopper on, blows the straw over, and that gives us kind of an opening in the beginning. Gives you a nice start. Just looking at some of the heads here, and I saw some ergot. There's one here. So you see that nasty black kernel there? Got taken over by a fungus. And it grows into this weird, elongated black kernel. It's just mold. It's poisonous if you eat too much of this stuff. I was just listening to a Joe Rogan podcast, and apparently you can make some pretty potent stuff out of that ergot. Doug, Brent's dad, took over trucking for the combine, so I'm no longer doing that. I got to do some stuff in the barn. Just want to give you guys a quick update though on the calf barn expansion. They are framing now the upright walls. I guess those walls are 8 foot tall of concrete, so that's a lot of work to frame it all in. You can see right here they got some foam blocks, and that is to make the notch in the concrete wall where the panels will slide in. So that's pretty smart. I think last time they did it they used wood. Now they're using that foam. It's going to be a lot easier to take out of the concrete. Framing the rebar. I think there's 6 guys here, and they're just working away. It was hot this afternoon. Brutal work, but it's sweet. They do good work, so. I think we're gonna get some comments. Why didn't you guys go further since you're tearing the whole front of that barn off anyway? This is kind of as far forward as we can come without wrecking the yard too much. It's got to be sloped downward, so this is now all going to be pretty sloped for the rest of the driveway. And if we would bring it too much forward, you start to not be able to line up with the loader that easily for cleaning them out and taking the calves out and that sort of thing. So this is what we decided was kind of the furthest ahead we could come. 32 feet for a total of 32 more pens. We're just ripping around checking out the combining and the swathing, so figured we'd stop in at the canola as well. And as you can see, it's maturing very fast. This is of course because that rain quit showing up for it, and it's deciding to shut off. These top pods do have a very little bit of grain in there. That's still a decent amount. Really fine grain, of course, because it didn't have the moisture to go and fill out. But down a bit lower, pods are a bit bigger, and the kernels, or the canola itself, is bigger. So still some hope for it. Should do, I don't know, 35-40 bushels, which is kind of that average for this area. So to get an average crop is going to feel like a bumper crop this year because it's been so bad. So still stoked. That fall rye, it's cranking. Peas should crank. Even though that rain quit showing up, we're still super thankful for the crops that we do have.